Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about just how all across the Western world we know that the globalists have infiltrated every institution, every bureaucracy, every educational institution, museums, art gallery, you name it. The governments, they've infiltrated, and they have either their ideological, fanatical flunkies in there, or people that they've bribed or in some way compromised to go along with the globalist project. Outrageous high costs for energy, mass migration for third world peasants, and so on. So climate change is a very central and pivotal part of the globalist project, and one that's causing a very sharp and I think an alarming reduction in Western living standards, and particularly in a place like Australia that's got vast reserves of coal quite near to the surface, so you don't have to dig down 100 kilometres to find the coal or something like you do in Europe. But this is good quality coal close to the surface. It can be mined and extracted quite cheaply. So Australia would have the cheapest, if it wasn't for the distance of the wires, given it's a big country, but would have the cheapest energy in the world, I think, given access to good quality coal. But there was a politician who was very outspoken about climate change, alarmism, and the predicted apocalyptic propaganda that does the rounds, and he's quite outspoken against it. Wasn't a particularly impressive looking guy, but he spoke about the issues. He was I think quite honest and accurate about it, and reliable. So, but he was really pushing this thing that the whole climate change thing is bogus, and was bringing up the evidence to prove it. So he was getting quite a lot, and was getting quite a lot of time on some of the media outlets, particularly alternative media in Australia, and they for reasons that I'm not quite sure about, but it only seems to be related to his position on climate change alarmism. The party that political party represented dumped him, and so the globalists. So my take on this is my view, of course. The globalists went to the heavies in that party that they fully control and said, "Look, get rid of this guy. We don't like him. He's talking against our climate change propaganda narrative. We don't like that. Get rid of him." So they did. He then annoyed everybody, but by deciding to run as an independent and again seek elected office. So there was a targeted campaign of harassment against him, where there were groups of people going around tearing down his election posters and so on. And this was, in my view, at least clearly coordinated and planned, and so that his posters didn't, his electioneering posters didn't end up around town. Then he had quite a good budget, so he was able to, every time his posters got pulled down, he just did another print run and put more posters up, and had enough volunteers to get it out there quickly. So it wasn't really holding him back, as I think they thought it might. They sort of, they keep on taking down his posters, we'll just price him out of the game. But he kept on coming back, so they were outraged by this. And in the same way that, look, if Donald Trump would just withdraw his candidacy for president, we'd stop legally harassing him. We'd stop using the power of the state, we'd stop using the unlimited resources of the state to endlessly harass him if he just stopped running. So, and this is the case here. If the guy would have backed out of the race or just quietly accepted the shit that they were giving him, they wouldn't really have bothered. But anyway, he kept on coming back and staying in the fight. So next thing you know, there's a body or group that supposedly oversees election integrity, and in my opinion, at least, they've been infiltrated by the globalists, or at least are subject to intimidation by those that are controlled by the globalists. And so they decided to go after him on the basis that he had some sort of minor quibble with something on his election posters. he pointed out, I got another sip of the water here, and I've got a scratchy throat all morning. He pointed out, this politician pointed out that the way his election posters were put together was the same as everyone else's. There was no different. But they were sort of undeterred by this. No, we say you have to change it. So he then did another print run to reprint the posters with this very minor cosmetic change they wanted. But they insisted this was a real election integrity issue. Has nothing to do with us coming after you because of your attitude to the climate change nonsense. But so he did that. Then they came back and said, look, we found a poster somewhere that still has the incorrect, or what they deem as incorrect representation on the poster, but we're not going to tell you where it is. But if you don't take it down, you're in deep shit, brother. So, well, where is the poster? If you've got a photograph of the poster, you must know where it is. So just tell us and we'll change it. No, don't care. So then they decide they're going to launch full-on legal proceedings against him. Yet more harassment. And he must have had to take his eye off the ball to fight all this and to keep on dealing with this harassment. So then a full-on legal. Now, this legal case that should have been settled out of court, that should have been it should never have been a legal case, chewed up legal fees, went on for months, chewed up legal fees in excess of $1 million. That's how much the resources of the state, the globalist controlled state, how much resources the state will put at the disposal of the those that run the globalist project to harass this guy out of existence. Now he ended up winning the case, which means that they weren't able to get one of their globalist friendly judges to hear the case, which they often do, and they've got a surprisingly successful track record in getting their flunky judges to hear the case. But in this instance, they didn't get it. It's a very, very weak case. It should never have even got to court. The judge should have thrown it out as soon as it appeared. But anyway, so now my understanding is, and again, this is my view, that he's had costs awarded to him, so they have to pay the $500,000, his approximately $500,000 in legal fees. But they're threatening to appeal, and they've got the resources, the unlimited resources of the state to do it, and the time. They can just dedicate people to it who are on the payroll. Say, okay, for the next 12 months, Billy Bob and Jimmy Jack, that's going to be your job to harass the fuck out of this guy. So at government expense, So my understanding is they're threatening to appeal. Now, either they'll go to appeal, or alternatively, they'll threaten appeal and say, look, instead of giving you $500,000, we'll give you 200,000, but we'll end it today. Or you can hold out for the $500,000, but we'll appeal it, and you'll still be litigating this, in the middle of next year, and so on. So my guess would be they'll attempt to cut a deal. But given the malice of how they've behaved so far, you don't believe in the climate change propaganda. We're going to kill you, crush you, tear you to pieces. You damn fucking Nazi Hitler. So he's the guy's in a difficult in an unpleasant position, and I've seen others that have where all the resources of the state have been put at the disposal of these fanatical, hate-filled children, the Pol Pot children that maliciously go after them forever with the sole intention of crushing them into the ground. And that's the case, I think, with this guy. But what interests me, I guess, is that the globalists had sufficient influence over the political party to dump the guy, and then they also had sufficient influence over the supposedly intellectual and impartial electoral commission or electoral oversight body to go after him and harass him again, all because he's got this temerity to disagree with the globalist climate change narrative, and to be somewhat effective in getting out there amongst the public and talking about it. So they were out to crush him, and they had that much influence that they could use all the organs of the state and government to to go after him. It was I think almost good luck that they weren't able to get a pro-globalist, pro-climate change judge to hear the case. Otherwise, I think it would have been awarded against him on some bullshit made up thing. So anyway, that's it. But I just wanted to mention this because it illustrates the power of the state in a number of ways now. And given that like big banking and big business and the state have almost fused into one, and you can see, or what illustrates this is, say, going after Nigel Farage in Britain and denying him banking services. Hey, you disagree with the globalist narrative. Bang, that's it. You're fucked, buddy. Now, if you're a nobody, sort of doing nothing, going nowhere, no media exposure, no real capacity to influence large numbers of people, then they probably don't care about you. You're not a threat to the globalist project, so we don't care. But if you become a threat to the globalist project in any way, and look at the way they're going after Trump, if you become a threat to the globalist project in any way, then they will come after you, and they have the power through banks, through the PayPals, through all sorts of means to make sure that that you're severely punished and crushed or whatever for daring to oppose or question the globalist project. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.